请收看《唯心世界义工利人天》。
Now, what happens if the United States somehow changed? Yeah, so you could have, if Taiwan changed its line to Qian, to a solid line, you'd have heaven, so that I don't know. That's kind of actually that's not so important because I don't think it's so easy to do. I'm not really going to talk about that, but I am. All right. So, but if the United States, like I guess this would be, I don't know. This is a work in progress. This is what's happening right here and now. So it's very hard to, have a clear analysis. But if it would be, this is really the strategic ambiguity has been a lot of what the U.S.'s position has been, right? That kind of trying to promote China's liberalization and opening to the world, while also defending Taiwan's freedom and security. And this is mountains over mountains, hexagram 52, which represents a deep sense of stillness and calmness that allows one to see things with greater clarity. 4 minutes, okay. It advises thoughtfulness and reflection as well as humbleness and contentment. It is not racked with resentment, jealousy, longing, or ambition. I guess this would be the advice to the United States, right? Is don't get too involved in this, right? Be still and calm, right? Don't fuel a fire of Lee, right? Be a mountain, be still and calm, all right? If Taiwan and China align, we might be closer to what people have been calling the China threat thesis, which is this contest for supremacy, sort of a zero-sum game worldview, right, of the winner takes all. And we have a good quote from Ling at the bottom of this slide related to that. And the China threat narrative is really similar to China's, sort of domestic pro-democracy Western threat, right? And in both cases, xenophobia is the tool of political oppression used by nationalists everywhere. But hexagram 51, thunder over thunder, is called, shock, Jen, and it represents a surprising event that tests one character, or the eldest son who seizes the initiative. It requires one to reassess priorities and adjust. But the advice, if dealt with calmly, it can also present opportunities. So some shocks occur because we've been unable to face the facts or convinced ourselves they would never happen. It may be a shock not just to oneself, but to the world. So again, this is the I Ching speaking about any time or anywhere, but it sort of applies to this context in some really interesting ways. and I only have 2 minutes, so I'm probably not going to quite get through all of this. We do come to Qian, I guess, which would really be about human rights and the rule of law. I think it's about both democracy and meritocracy. You need both, right? So you need good people in charge, and you need to protect everyone's engagement and involvement in civil society, to be inclusive and also to be scientific and thoughtful about things, right? Kun, if they all change to yin lines, I think is this emphasis on ecological civilization that China has been promoting. But again, this is really about trying to figure out if it's all for, if it's all going to benefit China with these BRI projects of development, or if it's really going to stick to the rhetoric and the ideas. I mean, I don't think it's just rhetoric, because China's doing a lot with, they're the leaders in wind and solar energy in the world. They could do a whole lot of good, and we ought to be supporting that, in my opinion. And yeah, I think that's about it, really.
Thank you for all these inspiring presentations this morning. So we do have quite a bit of time for questions and discussion. There may also be discussion among the panelists. Yes. Do we have a microphone? Thank you.
Yeah, let me put a bad word for the Confucius Institute. It's not Donald Trump or the United States who want to close the Confucius Institute. Actually, there is a resolution of the European Parliament of 2022. Frankfurt has just closed, and the European Parliament is not controlled by Donald Trump. So obviously, Canada passed a similar resolution. And I personally experienced the problems with Confucius Institutes. They also do very nice artistic initiatives. I visited some. They're very good. But the European Parliament's report also noticed how they constantly spread disinformation on Xinjiang, on Tibet, on Hong Kong, on Taiwan, and on religious persecution in China. For me, the worst problem, however, in Italy in particular, it's not even the Confucius Institute, but it's the agreement between Italian and Chinese universities. Because this agreement brings a lot of money to Italian universities, but when you discover, for example, University of Turin lost this money because they invited a speaker from Taiwan. And they were worried, if you invite somebody from Taiwan, we'll close the cooperation agreement. And I can multiply these examples. So the academic cooperation with China comes with a price. And I believe we should, of course, all love peace, but when it comes to Confucius Institutes or to Belt and Road, Italy just walked away from Belt and Road. This night, Argentina walked away from BRICS. So when it comes to all these nice sounding initiatives, we should, of course, maintain a commitment to peace, but we should not be naive. And it is clear that most of these initiatives, the Chinese soft power, it is soft power, but it's aimed at preventing the world from condemning China's genocides in Xinjiang and Tibet, and among most of its own citizens. Most of them are just guilty of being critical of the regime or being member of non-official religions. So I believe our love for peace should not translate into political naivete.
Did you want to respond?
Yeah, I'd like to respond. I agree with everything you said 100%. But I also think it's this idea of yin within yang or yang within yin. No country has to sit back and accept that. No university has to sit back and accept that. If I was Turin University, I would walk away then, right? So we have our own choices that we can make. But I don't want my government telling me they're going to take away all the money that they give my university for all kinds of important research. If I have an agreement with a Chinese university, which is what our relationship was, I mean, you had to sign something with China, so it wasn't only our university to university agreement, predated our project. So anyway, I think there's a wide range of experiences here, and the main thing I would say is we have no power at all if we disengage from China. We leave them alone to do whatever they want. That empowers China to be more strident in its nationalism, more belligerent, and to blame us, right, for all their problems. So to me, it's very important to find ways to be engaged and stay engaged. Now, but I would never just accept, we have to also be very clear and sincere and authentic about our beliefs and what we, how and what's wrong in China, just like we ought to be more sincere and authentic about what's wrong in our own countries.
We have another question over here.
Yes, good morning. I'm sorry you hit my, how to say, the painful point, because now we are sitting and you're saying the very right words, but I would like us to take a few years back, and because it's exactly the same situation. We had the situation with Russia, and it was the same. What we should do with Russia? Let's be friends with Russia. Russia twists our hand. Let's fight with Russia. Russia then is twisted our hand. The point is that it was no possibility, no way to have the normal, peaceful, long-term cooperation based on business, on cultural exchanges, because the guys, they had the different ideas in their heads. And I'm afraid that we are having exactly the same conversation now with China. Let's be friends with China. China is twisting our hand. If we are enemies with China, they are twisting our hands. What is really, if they have, like Russia, because we didn't believe, I don't know who believed in this room, that Russia will attack Ukraine and will continue with attacks. I believe nobody, even me being Lithuanian and quite aggressive against Russia, right? I didn't believe that. And now we have the situation with Taiwan. Because in 2022 February, I was sitting in Ukraine, inside of Ukraine, in again, the conference. And it's like you would not believe that in few days the war will start. Now we are sitting in Taiwan. And China is saying very clearly they have what to do. And that is like, it's nice, all of us, we would like the peace, it's like how? If they have the ideas in their head, how? I'm sorry that it was so emotional, but this is something, and for this country, I believe, is a matter death of life, because now we know what is going on with Ukraine. And now it can happen the same with Taiwan.
Yeah, and I guess, yeah, it's on. Again, I would agree 100%, and it's so difficult. I don't have a solution really at all. I mean, other than I think we have to separate people from governments. We need more civil society, more people-to-people interactions and engagement, and not just government, but the government's in charge, right? And the government's going to decide to invade or not invade, it's really hard to
I must say, Daniel, you just contradicted yourself because you said we have no power at all if we just leave China to China. But, okay, but isn't it a very wise principle in Taoism to leave the things with themselves? So if we say to China, no, not in these terms, we leave China to China, and the Chinese can sort out their own problems. So we stay in the in position. Isn't this much better?
Great question. And I would also agree with that. Like, we can't tell China what to do. We can only be clear about our own position, so it doesn't do any good to try to tell China what to do, but it does do, I think, a lot of good to be talking to them, partnered, well, maybe not partnered with them, right? But partnered, say, on BRI projects, which have, you know, instead of just like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? To just say, we're not going to do anything with you. We're not going to let you come teach Chinese to our students who need to learn Chinese. We're not going to get involved with a development project in Vietnam collaboratively, right? We're going to let China and Vietnam sort that out one-on-one. You know, maybe ASEAN should be the multilateral partner. It shouldn't just be one-to-one. It should be international. It should be multilateral as far as sort of the checks and balances, right? And so, I mean, to me, like, one of China's biggest mistakes is not coming to Ukraine's defense. Why, you know, China, why is China not saying, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. The politics are tough. They're really tough.
Let's see. Yeah, we have a question over here. If you could give her the microphone, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I'm from the Philippines, so the issue hit me also. But I'm an acupuncturist practicing traditional Chinese medicine, so I really appreciate what you have shared. And I just reflected on what you shared about BRI is yin, no? Promoting environmental sustainability, but also yang because it has its aggressive intention, okay? So yin-yang is relative. It is also interconsuming and intertransformative, no? And so I will dwell on that. In the Philippines, BRI, literally, locally it's called build, build, build. And so infrastructure and others affect our nation. When it came to the Philippines, our loan became trillions, okay? I am living in a province where it was funded, a dam will be built, is a left and right river big that will consume and will flood indigenous people's place. And if it will flood, it will really flood our towns down in how many towns are there, no? So all of our citizens, before when there was Marcos dictatorship, it was divided. But now, when there was dam, it's really anti-dam. So that means anti-China, anti-China's project. So that is a very excessive energy from an aggressive nation that exploits that, and that will not promote sustainability of the environment. And so that is a climate, what is that? A environmental degradation on our part. So I don't believe that is a yin. That's very young, and it is really a yang within yang. Okay? Yeah. It is really young. So that another one, the Philippine Sea. So they built already an infrastructure in that. And you know what? It was there in the internet, but it was erased. I don't know why, but I read it. And the soil that was built there partly came from from the Luzon area, from not Isambales area, So environmentally, it really distracted. Huh? And then our fishermen, if you will look at it in the internet, they were being hit and what is that? Water cannons, hit by water cannons. And recently, the Coast Guard were being, what is that laser gun? So what is that? That is really, when we look at the yin-yang aspect, it's really an excess energy that's coming from an aggressor, So we don't see harmony in that. When we promote the harmony, the what is this, of Taoism, coming from a country that promoted it, that originated it, is sad, okay? So one time, I was invited by the president of the Philippine Academy of Acupuncture, a Chinese doctor friend, and so I attended a forum between people-to-people's exchange, Chinese and then our government. So our president was there, and then I was at the back. 1/3 of this big hall, 1/3 are media people, and mostly businessmen. And when we were divided into workshops, I was included in the health, culture, and health sector. And our leaders in the Department of Health were there. The Philippine Institute of Complementary Medicine were there. And so praising the build project. But you know why? I was in culture shock. Because I am promoting traditional Chinese medicine. In the Philippines, our organization was the primary, the pioneer of promoting acupuncture in the community, because the people have no access in medicine. And so we help the poor people establish their own community health program using herbal medicine and using those Ventosa and Moxa because it's useful. And then I am teaching simple Qigong for the traumatized people from the Typhoon Haiyan area. So with Shifu Rene Navarro, we promoted it to release the tension and trauma. So like that. But when you see it, when I attended that conference, I was shocked because they're using in health and culture, they promote this traditional Chinese medicine. I believe so much in our work and in Chinese medicine because I am an acupuncturist since 1999. But when I feel it, looking at it in the context of colonialism, because we were colonized by the United States, and the Spaniards before, I said, wow, we are entering into a new colonialism. That was the time when Duterte, our president, was there. And you know that during our former president, Ninoy Aquino, we won in the international court in the West Philippine Sea. When Duterte came, he pacified the people and then linked with China and then, just to avoid war. So that's the question also of Ms. Umam, how can we pacify? So now maybe it's not a question, but just a reflection. How can we do the harmony in this kind of society that it is inevitable to have a new aggressors and new superpowers coming from that one. So we must be critical in all our efforts. That's all. Thank you.